Oh, what's up fellow nerds? I'm your host Dr. McKay and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be a breakdown of the Lantean city ship with the main focus on the city of Atlantis, but I will be covering all other city ships that the Lanteans have built throughout their entire history as well. So as always, we'll start off with the history overview of the city ships and then go into the specifications. But before we get started, if you like the content, feel free to hit the like button, don't forget to comment your thoughts, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to help the channel out. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers and we're so close to victory. And with all that said, let's go! So let's begin with the history of the city ships. Millions of years ago, the ancients, not yet known as the Lanteans, but possibly called the Alterans at this time in history, resided on Earth in the Milky Way galaxy. And around this time, the Alterans, due to their recent discoveries, were in the middle of launching their exploration ship Destiny to explore the universe, due to a message they found within the CMBR. But during this time, another project was in the early design stages. This project was the city ships. This project, originally a competing project with Destiny, saw the initial construction begin soon after the launch of the Destiny. The first and most well-known city ship, Atlantis, completed its construction on Earth several million years ago, during the height of the Alterans' power and influence within the Milky Way galaxy. Atlantis became the capital of the Alteran civilization and was their seat of government in the galaxy. However, the Alterans in the Milky Way galaxy between 5 and 10 million years ago became afflicted with a deadly plague that threatened to end the Alterans' existence. So in a last-ditch attempt to survive, the Alterans that were not infected all travelled to Atlantis to then depart the Milky Way galaxy for their survival. So Atlantis, full of uninfected Alterans, left Earth and headed to its neighbouring galaxy called Pegasus. The Alterans, once in Pegasus, found a habitable planet to land on and named the planet Lantea, and this is where the Alterans became known as the Lanteans. Over the next 5 to 10 million years in the Pegasus galaxy, the Lanteans spread out and seeded many worlds with life and developed more advanced technology, and during this time constructed more city ships. Some of these ships are from short stories and comics that were published after the show's runtime. So with that disclaimer out the way, let's go over the other city ships the Lanteans built other than Atlantis. Starting off with the one that was discovered by the Atlantis expedition, buried on the planet's surface with only the main tower left showing in the episode The Tower. This city ship goes unnamed but was once a colony of the Lanteans, but it was abandoned during the war with the Wraith. The next city ship was called Desinia. This city ship was found by the Daedalus, floating in the void between the Milky Way and the Pegasus galaxies. This ship, originating from the planet Takara, was another city ship that evacuated the Milky Way galaxy along with Atlantis. But due to the inhabitants being infected by some kind of disease, they disabled the city ship to stop the spread of the outbreak and was left floating in the void between galaxies. This is until the Daedalus discovered it in the short story Stargate Atlantis, Hermioid's last mission. It was left abandoned in the void after the story's conclusion. A quick sidebar though, this story explains how the Asgard came to their decision to give the Tauri all of their knowledge upon their decision to end their existence. It's a really good story, so go check that out. The next city ship was the unnamed city ship on the planet Osiris. This city ship was used by the Lantean scientists to create the nanite weapon for the use against the Wraith. But after realizing the nanite replicators were not the weapon they wanted, they decided to end it all by destroying everything. But it was not enough. A handful of replicator nanites survived, and replicate they did. They recreated the Lantean city ship along with creating an enormous planet-wide city, all emulating the Lanteans. The replicator city ship was later destroyed by Colonel Shepard and his team when the replicators were going to attack Atlantis. The last known Lantean-built city ship was named the Admah, if I pronounce that correctly. This ship was a twin of Atlantis and was located on a moon called MC4502. This settlement was once in close communication with Atlantis and was considered one of the great cities of the ancients. This branch of their civilization was highly developed and had a strong trade base, with it being the preferred destination for travelers on leave or visiting dignitaries. In time though, its inhabitants developed a taste for entertainment and games, which made it one of the foremost vacation spots in the galaxy. However, over time, the inhabitants of Admah began to grow decadent, with their games becoming more than simple tournaments, while their citizens started seeking even greater acts of excess. This saw the inhabitants of Admah developing a separate culture from their Lantean kin, who were more focused on spiritual growth and ascension. When the two societies were not capable of reconciling their differences, the people of Admah decided to enact a plan where they would live in isolation and separate from the rest of the Lanteans within the Pegasus galaxy. The city ship of Admah was discovered by Rodney McKay in 2009, as his moon had spiraled out of its orbit and was on course for the nearby star, and upon investigation, the team discovered that the city still had a population of surviving Lanteans. After the following events of the story, the city ship of Admah fell into its star and was destroyed. This story was from the Stargate Atlantis comic Brimstone, so go check that out as well. Lastly, the last Lantean city ship built goes unnamed, and not much is really known about this city ship, as it would have appeared in the 6th season of Stargate Atlantis, according to the show's writers. This city would be found by the Atlantis team on a planet occupied by a rogue element of the Geni, led by Commander Collier. How he survived, I don't know, but that was the story. And during the team's investigation of the city, McKay would discover the location within the city that can produce ZPMs, and use this information to locate on Atlantis the same facility. In the end though, Collier would use the ship to attack Atlantis, but with the help from Todd the Wraith, the Geni city ship would be destroyed in a battle by Atlantis and a fleet of allied Wraith ships. The only other city ship of note that appears in the entire show was the replicator built replica of Atlantis that was used by Neum's faction of replicators to create organic clone copies of Dr. Weir and the Atlantis team. This city was later destroyed by the other replicators. Phew, that's a lot of information I talked about there. But going back to Atlantis now, this city was again the capital of the Lantean civilization in the Pegasus galaxy, and was again where the seat of government was held. This city would serve the Lanteans throughout their time in the Pegasus galaxy until the war with the Wraith, where it became the last refuge for the Lantean people, and around 10,000 years ago, as the Wraith had destroyed nearly all of the other Lantean colonies in the galaxy. With the Lanteans outnumbered and with no hope of winning the war, the Lanteans submerged Atlantis to the bottom of the ocean and began preparing to evacuate the city and return to Earth. After the evacuation of the city lay dormant for the next 10,000 years until the humans of Earth sent an expedition to find the city. And upon discovering the city would then rise from the bottom of the ocean and be occupied by the expedition from Earth for the next 5 years. Surviving battles with the Wraith and the replicators, moving from the planet Lantean to another planet for safety, and ultimately helping out the humans of the Pegasus galaxy. That is until a Wraith hive ship powered by a ZPM went to attack Earth. So in order to protect Earth from this Wraith attack, Atlantis lifted off and headed to Earth to battle the hive ship and defend Earth. In the end though, the hive ship was destroyed and Atlantis ended up landing on Earth in San Francisco Bay, and this is where the show ends. However, the city does return to Pegasus in the following comic books, Back to Pegasus, but I shall leave the history there for this video. So with the history of the city ship done, up next let's cover the city specifications. Starting off, let's go over the size of the city ships. Now listen, trying to find the sizes online for Stargate ships is never easy, and I have found many different sizes that conflict with other sizes from the show. So like with most sizes, this is an estimate using the information I can find online. So with that said, the size of the city ships are 5,000 meters long and 5,000 meters wide, with the height being around 850 meters to 1,000 meters tall. That's probably from the bottom of the ship to the top of the main tower. And this size is very reasonable given what we see on screen. And just to point out something I learned researching this video, the Daedalus, when landing at Atlantis, lands alongside the East Pier in the water and not actually on the pier like shown in this video. I also did an image to show you what it looks like top down, which works so well with the size. So with the size out the way, let's cover the city's technical specifications. Starting off with the engines, the Lantean city ships are massive snowflake-shaped flying cities with over 400 towers with an internal volume of the city of Manhattan on Earth. And even with this incredible mass, the city ship is capable of atmospheric flight, space flight, and intergalactic hyperspace flight. This is achieved by the massive star drive that is located on the bottom of the city, with 6 main drive sections providing an incredible amount of thrust. This position of the star drive means that the city flies in an upward motion like this, and when it comes to slowing down or planetary landings, its landings in flight, the position is bottom down like this. The star drive requires a constant pilot. The star drive requires a constant pilot in flight using the control chair. But while in hyperspace, the pilot doesn't need to be present as the ship flies through hyperspace on autopilot. The hyperspace engines are comparable to Asgard hyperdrive technology, being relatively easy to fix using subsequent Asgard technology. The Star Drive's hyperspace engines are the most advanced Lantean engines ever created, being able to cover the distance from Pegasus to the Milky Way galaxy in around a day at maximum speed. The Star Drive requires enormous amounts of power to fully operate, mainly upon liftoff and landings. This is achieved by the use of multiple ZPMs, in which the city requires 3 for full power, which brings us to the next topic: power generation. The city is powered by 3 ZPMs for full functionality. This includes the city's engines and shields and the accompanying other systems that need the ZPM for power. However, the city can be powered by 1 or 2 ZPMs if you don't have 3. However, if the city does not have any ZPMs at all, the city can be powered by additional power generators, some of which are the Tauri's Naquadah generators, the Lantean's mobile geothermal generator that was under the ocean on Lantea, and from a range of solar panels. However, these methods of power generation is insufficient to power the city's engines and shields, which brings us to the shields. The city ship's shields are powered by the ZPM and is the strongest shield system ever created by the Lanteans, being able to withstand all forms of attack with 0 bleed through. It is a giant dome wall that covers the habitable part of the city, and the shield is necessary for spaceflight as it protects the city from the vacuum of space along with keeping all the air inside, and must remain active for the duration of flight. The shields are also necessary for planetary entry as the huge city builds up immense heat due to friction upon entering a planet's atmosphere. The shield is basically an impenetrable wall as long as it is being powered, with power supply being its only weakness. And unlike other ships' shields that can be depleted or lose integrity over time by damage, the city shields can never be depleted or lose integrity unless it runs out of power. The shields, although impenetrable, can allow certain things through though, like the puddle jumpers, drones, and other Lantean designed ships, without having to lower the shields. The shields can also be manipulated in size to be able to extend its area to cover a large portion of a planet's surface, to it only covering the central spire of the city as seen when they are adrift in space, and to even be able to wrap around the Stargate itself, giving the shield great versatility in use. The city shield was also converted into a cloak by Doctors McKay and Zelenka, thus providing Atlantis with a cloaking ability. However, without the shield's protection though, the city can easily be damaged as the city is remarkably fragile. So with the shields covered, let's go over the city's weapons. So let's talk about weapons. The city ship has but only one weapon system, the drones. These are the Lanteans' only weapon system used in city ships. The number of drones a city ship can hold are in the tens of thousands at full capacity and can be launched from 3 drone launchers positioned here on the piers. They are controlled and fired from the control chair using a neural interface connection. The drones can pass through an active city shields, so in a sense, when in combat, a fully powered city ship technically has the best defense and offensive systems in all of Stargate, making a city ship very formidable in combat. Other weapons the city ship has, mainly Atlantis, are Tauri-made railgun turrets that are positioned throughout the city for defense against the Wraith during the siege. But once Atlantis gained a ZPM, the railguns are of no effect in battle when the shields are up, leaving the drones to essentially be the primary weapon system used in combat by the Atlantis expedition going forward within the series. Okay, so up next are the sensors and communication systems. The city uses a wide range of sensors, which include short-range sensors for in-system scanning, long-range sensors for interstellar range, which can also detect ships in hyperspace, biometric sensors to detect life signs and different species within the city itself. The city also has underwater sensors for scanning life forms in a planet's ocean. The sensors can also be altered for various purposes if the need arises, so the sensors are very versatile in this regard. Now let's talk about the communications. The city has three forms of communications. The first is internal communications. This allows citywide communication through a PA-like system, allowing the whole city to hear aloud someone talking, and with the ability to reply from any location within the city by just talking out loud. The next is the short-range communications for communicating with ships in the same star system or on the same planet. And lastly, the subspace communication relay system for allowing interstellar communication with ships within the same galaxy. Next, let's talk about control systems. The control systems of a city ship are mainly control consoles that are located in the main tower's control room. These consoles can provide city-wide control over nearly all functions, including the shields. However, to fly the city and fire the drones, the use of the control chair is required, as these functions require the neural interface to work. The last form of system control is the city's computer system. It's unclear if the computer is an AI system or just an advanced automated system with pre-programmed commands, but the city's computer can act independently on its own, like with lifting the city from the bottom of the ocean or to enact a citywide lockdown due to a virus outbreak. But it seems more like pre-programmed commands rather than acting like an AI. And as we are talking about computers, the computer holds the entire Lantean database with all the Lantean's knowledge and scientific research, which can be accessed from any computer console in the city, and including the holographic display room within the city as well. Other systems of note before we go through each section of the city are as follows: the life support system, artificial gravity, the wormhole drive shown in the last episode of season 5, cold protection systems for landing on cold planets, surface clamps to hold the city on solid ground or at the bottom of the ocean, and lastly, hundreds of lightning rods that divert lightning strikes to grounding stations to prevent lightning damage to the city in storms. So now we have covered the specifications of the city, let's go over what the city has inside and how many can live in the city. So let's start off with the population. The city ships are giant cities after all, and this allows for a huge population with estimates of hundreds of thousands of residents. And given that the city has over 400 towers for habitation and a massive internal volume below the cityscape, my estimate would be close to 1 million people. Now with the population covered, let's discuss the different sections of the city. Starting off, we have the central tower. This is directly in the middle of the entire ship and where most of the main control functions are located. Next is the inner city, located in the central area around the main tower. Next up, we have the piers. These are the North Pier, South Pier, East Pier, West Pier, Southeast Pier, and the Southwest Pier. So with the different sections covered, let's discuss what's in them. And like usual, we'll go from important first, starting off with the control room and the gate room. These rooms are located in the main central tower near the top and functions as the operational center for the city. The gate room sits just below the control room, as the control room has direct control over the gate with the DHD and gate shield controls located there. Directly above the gate room is the jumper bay, which holds 20 plus puddle jumpers. These ships are able to go through the Stargate and thus have a door between the gate room and the bay for allowing the jumpers to have access to the gate. And on the other side, the roof of the jumper bay also has a door that allows the jumpers to leave the bay to fly outside. Now sticking with the central tower, here we also have the briefing room adjacent to the control room, and to the right of the control room across a small bridge is the commander of the city's office room. There is also a holo room located on the same floor as the gate room for holographic access to the computer. The main tower also has an infirmary, mess hall, living quarters, storage rooms, and science labs, amongst other various rooms. And at the base of the tower is the ZPM power room with a hub for 3 ZPMs to power the city. Other important areas of the city is the control chair room, which is located at the top of one of the eastern towers in the inner city. Other areas of the city are home to many science labs and living quarters, along with many storage areas. The city has miles and miles of corridors and many stairs leading all over the city. Luckily though, the city has many internal transport rooms that kind of look like elevators scattered all over the city, allowing for easy travel around the city. There is also a lower puddle jumper bay that would normally sit below the sea level. This is referred to as the underwater jumper bay. The city also has many rooms that hold stasis pods for cryogenic stasis. The other rooms the city has are armories for weapon storage, botany labs for growing plants, brigs for prisoners, gyms for exercise, isolation rooms for outbreaks or just to keep someone secure, cargo rooms for storage, drone storage and drone launchers for the weapons, the central plaza, which is where most of the population can gather, power distribution centers to distribute power throughout the city. Oh, and did I mention science labs and living quarters? Because there are a lot of them. The city is vastly huge and it has so many rooms to cover, but I'm not going to cover every single room shown in the show here because we'd be here forever, but I believe I have covered the main rooms in this video. So there we go then, my fellow nerds. I think that's it for this breakdown of the Lantean city ships, and I believe I have covered all of the main aspects of the ship that I want to cover in this video, except for the specific stories that are told from the various different rooms in the city, which I will cover in other videos on this channel. So if you think I have missed anything to do with the city ships, please leave a comment below, and if you liked the video, feel free to like, comment and subscribe for more. I have been your host, Dr. McKay, and thank you all for watching this breakdown, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Cheers and goodbye. Bye bye.